Hi guys, and welcome to another brand new video. Today is my July book haul. This is late, I know it's late, but there was Yalk, and then there was recovering from Yalk, and then I was sick, and then there was a costume fitting, and then there was waiting for next door to be finished with that building work, because otherwise it would have just been going on in the background. But at least it's here. Eventually. I'm not including the books that I picked up at Yalk because I've kind of already covered those in my Yalk wrap-up video, which I will link to you guys down below so you can check it out if you want to. The first book in my July book haul is Bright Ruin by Vic James. This is the third and final book in the Dark Gifts trilogy. I have been highly anticipating this and it was freaking amazing. It was the best series finisher I have read so far this year, and it kept me on my toes right until the end, and then it broke my heart a little bit, but then it kind of fixed it at the same time, so I can't stay mad. The book is set in a dystopian England where gifted aristocrats who are skill users and are known as the equals are in charge of everything, and if you are a regular person you will have to do your slave days, which are 10 years. Abby's family gets to go to the Jardine Manor to work there, except her brother Luke ends up being sent to Millmore to do his days there instead. I don't want to spoil this book, but I will say that there is a rebellion coming, there's a lot of plotting going on, and not all of the equals are as bad as they seem. Cillian and Gavar seem a bit shady in the first book and they don't seem that great, but honestly I have been rooting for Cillian and Gavar since book one, and in this book they really didn't let me down. I am gonna miss Cillian. And there was an unexpected ship that I didn't see coming too, and I wholeheartedly shipped it with my entire being, and now I'm sad that there's not going to be another book with more of it. Next up is Exile for Dreamers and Refuge for Masterminds by Kathleen Baldwin. These are books 2 and 3 in the Strange House series. I have picked these up even though I may or may not have read the first book yet. Basically, in the midst of that week when I was sick and feeling kind of crappy, I wanted to treat myself and I was in the mood for something historical, so I thought I'd pick up books 2 and 3 of Strange House. Each book is told from a different girl's point of view, but they do follow on from each other, so you have to read from book 1. In the books, it's 1814, Napoleon has escaped from imprisonment, Europe's in a shambles, Britain is at war on 4 fronts because go hard or go home, I guess. And at Strange House, young ladies are being trained for a world of spies, diplomacy and war. They're a historical romance, but they sound like they're going to be something a little bit different, and the first book really piqued my interest. I've been meaning to read it for ages, it's been on my TBR for ages, and I probably should be heavily judged for picking up book 2 and 3 when I still haven't read book 1. But it sounds exactly like my cup of tea and I was really in the mood for it, so I think I'm going to binge read all 3 books at the same time because I can. Next up is My Plain Jane by Brodie Ashton, Cynthia Hand and Jodie Meadows. I completely loved My Lady Jane. It was something different, it was hilarious and it kept me gripped, and I've been super excited for the sequel, My Plain Jane. Each one is a standalone, you don't have to have read the previous one. Each one is going to be about a different Jane. The first book was about Lady Jane Grey, this one is about Jane Eyre, and it says, "You may think you know the story. After a miserable childhood, penniless orphan Jane Eyre becomes a governess at Thornfield Hall. There she meets one dark, brooding Mr. Rochester. Despite that significant age gap and his uneven temper, they fall in love, and reader, she marries him. We have a different story to tell." So, Jane heads off to Thornfield Hall to become a governess and she meets the dark and brooding Mr. Rochester. We all know this, but nothing is as it seems. A certain gent is hiding more than skeletons in his closet. An orphan Jane Eyre, aspiring author Charlotte Bronte, and supernatural investigator Alexander Blackwood are drawn together on an epic ghost hunt. Jane Eyre was the least painful out of all of the classics that I had to read at school. Whether I still like it or not if I read it now, I don't know. I did recently read a sci-fi retelling, which I will link down below because it was actually really good, but I'm excited to see what twist these authors are going to put on Jane Eyre because they did it so brilliantly with Lady Jane Grey, and honestly it was 100% hilarious and I was laughing and fully entertained the entire time, and I'm expecting good things from this one too. Now it's time for the portion of the book haul where I show you the purchase that you guys are going to judge me for, and this month it is the new editions of the Grisha trilogy. I have the hardcovers, I have the paperbacks, and now I have another edition of the paperbacks. When I went to buy these guys from Waterstones, one of the booksellers pointed out that there's additional new material in the back of each book, so that's my justification right there. Yes, I did not have that knowledge and justification before I went to buy the books. I was buying them purely because I wanted the new covers, but now I have been given that justification, so let's pretend that I knew that and I bought them because I knew of the extra material. So yeah, moving swiftly on. Next up is Day Zero and The Dark Calling by Cresley Cole. The Dark Calling is the next book in the Arcana Chronicles series, and Day Zero is actually a novella for the series, which I've been meaning to pick up for ages, and I finally picked it up because Amazon Prime requires you to spend a certain amount of money to buy something, and I just needed it. The Arcana Chronicles is one of my favourite series, but it has been a while since I read the last book. I think because it was taking a while for each book to come out and I kind of kept losing track, I kind of went from avidly waiting for each book and reading it to kind of not realising book 4 was out and then buying it and then not really having time to read it. So, our main character Evie has always had visions, but when the apocalypse happens and decimates her hometown, it turns out that Evie is a card in the main arcana from the tarot deck. She's the Empress of Thorns, and Evie and the other cards are destined to play out the ultimate battle between good and evil. Again, the cards are all on different sides. Some are on the good side, some are on the bad side. They're all fighting each other, basically playing out this prophecy like they have done for however many thousands of years. And Evie has memories locked away from the previous battles, but death remembers her from all of her previous incarnations. I find the premise for this really interesting. It's really different. I haven't really read anything else like it. I do really love it, and I have been itching to carry on reading this series. Next up is Inferno by Julie Kagawa. This is the latest book in the Talon series. In this series, dragons can shift into humans, and our main character Ember and her twin are part of the organisation Talon, which is made up entirely of these dragons. In this series, Ember and her twin are spent to spend the summer with the humans, living amongst them, and it's kind of like their last hurdle before they are fully graduated members of the Talon organisation. They have to get through it. But their arch nemesis, the Order of St. George, are after them, and there's romance, and Ember ends up falling for the Order of St. George soldier, but then there's a rogue dragon, because there are dragons that are rogue from Talon, because Talon is kind of shady, and even though it's the main organisation for the dragons, it isn't 100% a good thing. And in this particular book, I do believe Ember and her cohorts are finally striking back against Talon. Next up is Smoke in the Sun by Rennie Ade. This is the sequel to Flame in the Mist. It's the final book because it's only a duology. Our main character Mariko is on her way to the capital to marry Prince Raiden. She's never met him before, but her convoy is attacked. They try to kill her. She's the only survivor. She plots revenge against the Black Clan, which were the bandits that were hired to kill her. She disguises herself as a boy and she lives among them, but she finds that she's appreciated for her intelligence and her abilities, and in Smoke in the Sun we see the aftermath of what happened at the conclusion of Flame in the Mist. I feel like it was wrapped up really, really nicely actually, and I was rooting for a lot of the characters. The one thing that did make me sad was what happened to Kenshin's relationship with Mariko. He's her brother. I was really sad about that, but I do feel like it was wrapped up really well, and I am kind of going to miss this series. Next up is Heart Thorns by Brie Barton. Our main character Mia has pledged her life to hunting the Gwirach. They are women who can manipulate flesh, bones, blood and breath. But her father suddenly announces that she's going to marry this prince, which isn't really her ideal because, you know, she's on the whole hunting Gwirach thing. So obviously Mia plots to escape, but on her wedding night she discovers that not only is she a huntress, she is also a Gwirach too. Like I said in my Arc August video, I've seen this all over my Twitter and Instagram. It hadn't necessarily been on my radar before that, but after seeing it everywhere I got super intrigued by it, and then reading the synopsis intrigued me even more. We also got finished copies in Fairy Loot with red sprayed edges, which I was super happy about. Next up in my July book haul is this mysterious box. And inside the mysterious box is an Arc of Time's Convert by Deborah Harkness. I came back from Yauk on the Saturday absolutely knackered to see this little box waiting for me, and I really wasn't sure what it was. The sticker should have clued me in a little bit. This box has some Harlequin themed tissue paper with the whole black and red thing. It has a Times Convert bookmark. I got a Times Convert temporary tattoo, and I got this little Times Convert coaster. I think it's a coaster. And I got an exclusive hardcover arc of Times Convert by Deborah Harkness. Times Convert is set in Paris, London, and the American colonies circa the Revolutionary War. Matthew meets Marcus on the battlefield. Marcus is offered immortality and he seizes the chance, but his transformation to a vampire isn't easy. The ancient traditions and responsibilities of Matthew's family clash with his beliefs. Then we fast forward to contemporary London and Marcus has met Phoebe. He's completely fallen for Phoebe, however she wants to become immortal as well, but becoming immortal and a vampire and whatever isn't as easy nowadays as it was back then. I know a lot of people are super excited for this. I'm excited too. I'm kind of scared to read it though because I don't want to damage it because it's really pretty. Compulsive Gambler Volume 6. Compulsive Gambler is set in a private academy for the kids of the wealthy, and they have a rigorous curriculum of gambling. Enter Yumiko, who has just joined the academy, and she is a total gambling addict, which is probably the polite term. I actually think she's completely freaking crazy. As we've moved along with this series, there's been a lot of confrontation and conflict with the student council and the student council president. But I'm interested to see how far this series will go and if there's going to be some revolutionary taking over of the student council by Yumiko and her little group. The Saga of Tanya the Evil Volume 3. This is a Born in Another World manga with a slight twist to it. In Tanya the Evil, we have a salaryman who dies and he meets a god and kind of pisses that god off, so he gets reborn into a world with magic, but he is reborn as a little girl called Tanya. Tanya is determined to climb the ranks because she mostly wants to be able to go back to the rear and sit about and do nothing and live in safety, but still be powerful. However, she keeps getting thrust into the front lines because everything backfires that she does. Basically, the one thing about this series that I find completely hilarious is that her internal monologue completely differs from the other soldiers. School of Horns, Volume 1. In the world of this manga, horns are the defining trait of magical beings. The bigger your horns are, the more powerful you are, the smaller they are, the weaker, and so on and so forth. Our main character is Eru. He's a freshman at the School for Magic, but he has tiny, tiny little horns. He basically has weak magic and things kind of really go awry whenever he's about. And he is paired with his super grouchy roommate Rahito, but is his power more than it seems? This surprised me multiple times so far throughout the volume, and I'm definitely intrigued to see where it's gonna go. But it was super cute. Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online Volume 2. This is a spin-off from Sword Art Online. It is centred on the Gun Gale Online universe, which we saw in Season 2 of the Sword Art Online anime. Our main character, Karen, is super tall, so she obviously feels really out of place in the real world. She doesn't really have any friends, but everything changes when she discovers Gun Gale Online. In Gun Gale Online, she is free to play the cute chibi character of her dreams, who's super tiny and small. And so far, Karen and her partner, Em, are involved in the Squad Jam. The Squad Jam is basically teams of players completely annihilating each other until there's only one left. So it's kind of like Bullet of Bullets, but with more people. Royal Tutor Volume 8. You guys know this is one of my favourite series. The anime is getting a Season 2. All is right in my world. In the Royal Tutor, we follow 4 princes, Bruno, Leonard, Licht, and Kai. They are kind of unruly. They're kind of spoiled. They've chased away every royal tutor they have ever had, so their father calls in Heiner, who is an old friend of his, and he kind of refuses to give up and kind of ends up really winning a place with the princes. They end up completely loving him. Where we're up to in the series, the princes have kind of voiced their intentions to be king, and Prince Irons, their older brother who is supposed to be king, has now shown up, and he and his crony Rosenberg are not going to make things easy for them, as if Rosenberg hasn't already been being a complete pain in the arse for the past 7 volumes. Akame ga Kill Volume 15. This is the final volume in the Akame ga Kill series, so because I don't want to spoil this for you guys, I'll just give you a general overview of what the series is about. Basically, our main character Tatsumi comes to the capital to make money for his impoverished village, but he ends up joining Night Raid. Night Raid are basically a group of assassins that are fighting against the evils of the capital, and the entire series is basically all about the rebellion against the Empire, against the capital, against the Emperor, fought by Night Raid and the rest of the rebel army. And Night Raid mostly fight against the Jaegers, who are an elite force from the capital, and all of them use Tigus, which kind of give them a power like Akame's sword always kills whoever it slices, but literally everyone you love will die. Sword Oratoria Volume 4. This is the light novel which I have been working my way through. It basically runs parallel to the main series, and the characters kind of meet up and events kind of line up and everything, but it's from Aza's point of view, and Loki familiars. In Auraria, the gods and goddesses basically make familiars, and they're full of adventurers who go down to the dungeons and fight the creatures there and basically do dungeon raiding or crawling or whatever you want to call it. But there's been a lot of shady happenings going on, and Loki Familiar is investigating all of that, and this volume really focuses on Tione and Tiona, who are the 2 Amazons. World End, aka Suka Suka. I don't know if you guys have heard me talking about the anime before, but I watched the anime of this, and I started to watch the first episode, and within the first couple of minutes I was like, okay, this is going to destroy me, so I better wait for it all, and I binge watched it, and it completely broke me. And it actually was really sad, but online a lot of people were saying that there's more to the story, and not all of the light novels have been adapted in that one season of anime, which isn't hugely surprising, let's be real. So I have been desperately waiting and hoping for one of the publishers to pick up World End and translate it for us, and Yen Press have done me that solid. World End is set years after strange beasts drove humanity to extinction. The sole survivor is Willem, and he finally wakes up, but in the world of beasts, featureless, a kind of looked down upon because they are perceived as, you know, destroying the whole freaking world and destroying everything for everyone. So featureless don't generally have a good time. Willem's job is to guard this warehouse and look after these weapons, but the weapons turn out to not be actual weapons. They are young girls, but they're not even just young girls. They're actually fairies, specifically leprechauns. Their sole job and purpose in life is to fight against the beast. Sometimes they have to self-destruct to achieve this. The magic and the weapons they use take a toll on them. And our main female character, Catholi's time is almost up. I have gotten my pronunciation of her name purely from the anime, so if I've said it wrong, blame Funimation. Kiss Me at the Stroke of Midnight, Volume 6. This is a Cinderella retelling. It's about model student Hinana, who is above crushes and dating, but secretly longs for a fairy tale romance, and she happens to meet celebrity Cade when his movie is shooting at their school. They end up hanging out, kind of getting to know each other a little bit. They find out each other's darkest secrets, Cade's being that he's a complete perv. And throughout the series, we've been kind of watching their romance grow and develop, and there's been more drama added in. If you like fairy tale retellings, the series is a lot of fun. It's a little bit ridiculous at parts, but it is hugely entertaining, I'm not gonna lie, and there's even a mystery element thanks to Cade. Wake Up Sleeping Beauty Volume 5. This is a, you guessed it, Sleeping Beauty retelling, but with a twist. Our main character Tetsu takes a part-time job working at this mansion on the hill. He ends up meeting Shizu, who has basically been locked in this little side house aside from the mansion, and she's not really allowed to leave the house because she gets possessed by spirits, and there's particular spirits that are possessing her. I think there's 4 or 5 maybe now, one of which is her grandfather, but they end up possessing her and they take turns and they have like a schedule for it. It's all very civilized. There's no like the Ring, poltergeist, whatever it is, possession. But Shizu is not allowed to leave the house, so she doesn't really have any friends, and the series is about her and Tetsu and the romance that develops between the two of them, and how Tetsu kind of brings her out of her shell. It's kind of slow to start, but things do finally get going around about the volume 3 mark, I think it is. So that has been my July book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below which of the books you want to read the most. Let me know what you hauled in July. I will link all of my social media down below, as well as links to as many of the books as I can so you guys can check them out, and I will see you guys soon.